Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. As mentioned in last night's live stream, we are going to be taking a look at Charlie Daniels tonight, and thank you everyone for the requests to look at Charlie tonight and all of the emails that you've sent through as well and all of the performance links. We are going to be taking a look at Charlie and the band in 1979 performing Devil Went Down to Georgia, and this was hot off the press at this time, the same year as its release. This is an edit that I'm making to the video because unfortunately the video I did earlier has been blocked. So I'm going to remove the performance elements and I'm going to put a link to the performance that I was watching in the description below and also pin it to the top of the comments section, and then you guys can return here for the analysis. And there we have it. That is one of those performances that you're so engaged with the whole time, and it's all down to Charlie Daniels, the band, but just keeping you engaged in the story of the song. And Charlie, the way that he delivered this song in particular with the literal talking, I always say about some singers, songwriters who might be playing an acoustic guitar, having that talking quality to their voice and that storytelling ability. And Charlie was one of those guys that could just sell you a story, not only musically, but in the sense of understanding exactly what's going on and having that clarity of diction as well, the enunciation. And we've got the top level instrumental ability across the board here, and Charlie on the fiddle. That technical ability, it's exactly the same principle that you're going to have playing the guitar, with the muscle memory in that left hand, playing through the runs and having that vibrato in there as well. Such great control and expression on the instrument. Another thing that you won't necessarily notice is the way that Charlie instantly snaps into the melodic components that we have vocally, because we have Bruce Ray Brown also supplying that backing harmony, and those notes have got to be strict, they've got to be spot on. So it's one of those performances that you just watch and you don't necessarily think about the fact that Charlie is changing from singing and being strict with his pitch to then telling the story. The other thing that Charlie had was that multi-instrumental ability, playing guitar and fiddle, in this case also being able to sing at the same time, but the technical ability being of the standard where you've got a song, and whenever you do have a song where the lyrical content is referring to somebody being very good at an instrument, the person performing that song has to be very good at the instrument in order to portray that through the song. And we've definitely got that here with Charlie, the way that he breaks off into the fiddle solos, first the Devil's version and then Johnny's version after that. You can imagine the alternative, somebody performing this song who isn't of a top technical ability. So when the Devil goes to show off, it doesn't sound very good. And exactly the same case when Johnny then plays his show-off piece. But fortunately, Charlie was massively talented, and he was already an accomplished guitarist and fiddle player when he left school, so he started very early on. But you can tell the confidence with which he and the band plays just gets everybody into the performance, and you can tell how much the audience are into this. It's having that likable personality on stage and being at one with the crowd, and the crowd being at one with the artist. We certainly get that in this performance, and it's not as if there are a lot of bells and whistles here. We haven't got a light show going off or lots of fireworks being set off. It's just pure talent on stage, and that is the entertainment, is the level of ability of the band and the story of the song. It is the classic bluegrass setup and approach of playing 16th notes consistently, accurately as well. In the intro, Charlie does then change to 8th notes, and we'll have a little demonstration of that in a second on the guitar, not on the fiddle, because I don't have one and I don't play one, but as I said, it's a stringed instrument, so it all crosses over. The other thing within this live performance and the composition is that we still get these dynamic changes that you'll find in every single big hit, just taking you from that intro where we're into that 16th note fiddle solo and the main riff of the song, and then we come out of that into the verse, And in the verse, everything drops out. It's now pretty much just percussion and Charlie's voice, because you want to start hearing the story and appreciating what the song is about. And then as soon as we start getting towards the chorus, the guitar will come in and the bass will come in as well. It's just filling out that sound for the chorus and especially into the solo sections. So just to take you guys through the concept of the 16th notes and 8th notes that I was mentioning earlier in the intro, but also throughout this whole composition. This isn't going to turn into an instructional video, but we're in D minor here, and pretty much rhythm-wise, you want to get into that kind of groove, bouncing from your root note to the rest of your chord. In the intro, we do have this, which is just bouncing from the D minor to the C, down to the B flat, to the A, the G minor, A, back up to the D minor again. And that all happens underneath the fiddle that's being played over the top by Charlie. Just in case you don't know what 16th notes are or 8 notes, I'll quickly explain it. In a bar, you have 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 8th notes, surprisingly, is just double that, but in the same space. So if I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can hear that my pick is actually going double the speed of the numbers that I'm saying. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 16th notes is just faster still, double the speed. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. So you'll find that it gives it an energy with all of these 16th notes kicking off the whole time. And obviously with the fiddle, we get that sustain of the bow and all of the work's done by the fingers and Charlie's practice and dexterity in order to nail this timing. Obviously, if you're playing the guitar and you do have a clean tone, you're probably going to have to end up picking the strings quite a lot in order to hear each of the notes in that 16th note sequence. What we do have here is a little rundown at the intro, or ending the intro, but then getting into 8th notes. So this transition that we make to the slower section in the intro, we've got a little rundown, which is like that, and we follow it up immediately with which means that we've got that 16th note run down, and then the 8th notes coming in for the, because we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But I do want to get into Charlie's history and his career, having already mentioned that he played guitar, fiddle, banjo, and mandolin as well. By the time he left school, he was accomplished at all of those. He wrote It Hurts Me, and this is in 1964, so Charlie would have been 28 years of age, and he co-wrote that with Bob Johnston, and that would go on to be recorded by Elvis Presley. Bob was a good friend of Charlie's, and Bob was also a producer, so Charlie did a lot of work with him and for him in the studio. Charlie was also a session musician, so played with Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen as well. He also produced the 1969 album Elephant Mountain, and that was by the Youngbloods, and in 1971 is when Charlie released his debut album, and that was called Charlie Daniels. In 1973, his third album, Honey in the Rock, was released, and his first hit came from that album. It was called Uneasy Rider, and it got to number 9 in the charts. He also played on many of the Marshall Tucker Band's early albums around this time. We're talking early 1970s here. In 1974, he organised the first volunteer jam concert, and that was held in and around Nashville. And in 1975, he released The South's Gonna Do It Again, and that was a top 30 hit. And he also played fiddle on Hank Williams Jr.'s album, which was called Hank Williams Jr. and Friends. Fast forwarding to 1979, that's when this song was released, The Devil Went Down to Georgia, and he also won a Grammy for the Best Country Vocal Performance for this song. Also, it would go on to be featured in the movie Urban Cowboy, where Charlie actually featured himself personally in that movie. The song got to number 3 in the charts, and it was from the Million Mile Reflections album. Unfortunately, The Love Is Gone by Earth, Wind and Fire and also My Sharona by The Knack were in the charts at that time, so that's why it only managed to get up to that number 3 spot, but it was a monster hit. In 1980, the year after the performance that we've just watched, he played on the country music concept album that was called The Legend of Jesse James. Also, just to mention, this was the same year, 1980, that he had his serious arm injury because he was digging fence post holes with an auger, and I think it was a mechanical one, which meant that it was just digging by itself. If you don't know what an auger is, it's effectively like a corkscrew going into the ground. But Charlie's sleeve from his shirt got caught in it and his arm got dragged into it. He had 3 complete breaks of his right arm. And by the way, you've only got 3 bones in your right arm, so those are all broken. He also broke 2 fingers as well. So that was a serious accident, but fortunately he did manage to recover. He also had other songs that came out that year that were very popular. In America was one of those, got to number 11 in the charts. Also, The Legend of Woolly's Swamp, which got to number 31. And fast forwarding to 1982, he had a lot of success with Still in Saigon, which got to number 22 in the charts. Charlie was still very popular throughout the 80s, and fast forwarding to the early 90s, in 1993 is when he joined up with Mark O'Connor, and they recorded the sequel to this song, and that was called The Devil Came Back to Georgia. And that also featured Johnny Cash, Marty Stewart, Travis Tritt on vocals. In 1999, he lent his voice to the musical called The Civil War, and that same year was the first of several volunteer jam tours that took place. And also, he was inducted into the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame. In the year 2000, he performed and composed the score for Across the Line. And in 2006, he was part of the backup band for Hank Williams Jr.'s opening sequence to Monday Night Football. And in 2007, he became a member of the Grand Ole Opry. And in 2016, he was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. In 2017, he released his memoir, Never Look at the Empty Seats, and in 2018, he released his album, Songs in the Key of E. That was the same year that he released his book, Let's All Make the Day Count, The Everyday Wisdom of Charlie Daniels. Unfortunately, Charlie had been through it from a health perspective when mentioning that injury that he had to his arm in 1980, but also in 2001, he had prostate cancer and that was successfully treated. In 2010, he suffered a stroke and had to recover for a couple of days from that, but he did, fortunately. And in 2013, he had a mild case of pneumonia, but they decided that they needed to fit him with a pacemaker in order to regulate his heart when he visited the hospital for that case of pneumonia. And sadly, a couple of days ago, July the 6th, 2020, he died of a hemorrhagic stroke, and that was at the age of 83. But it's great to have a look back here at Charlie and his band in full flow with that award-winning vocal delivery and technical ability on that fiddle. Thank you guys so much for suggesting and requesting this video for tonight. I hope you did enjoy it, and I'll see you guys at the next one.